Welcome to this live session. I have not been live here in a while, so I'm going to give you some time to join the chat, to join the stream. Today's stream is a very interesting one. It's about the US elections. This elections, the 2024 elections, are said to be the most important one yet, at least for my 44 years. And I don't usually talk about US politics, but I'm being obedient. And just as I've started, the rain has started, so we'll see what happens. It isn't a soundproof room. I heard thunder, quite apt. So if you're joining in, let me know where you're joining in from. That's very important. And the reason why I'm talking about this US election is because prophetically it's been on my heart. This election period is a very critical one, not only for the US, but for the entire world. So, this is something that we all must be pondering. Um, and as you come on and share, I haven't been coming on live for a long time, as often as I used to, but I'm going to change that. Things have been really intense over the past few months, and those of us who have a strong prophetic calling have been feeling that pressure. So I've just been quiet, been focused on the things that I need to focus on while I've been on. And for the past, since this entire morning, I have been listening to a song on repeat. And this one is by Moses Bliss. Moses Bliss is out of Nigeria. He's just married to a Ghanaian who is of Ghanaian heritage but born in the UK, Mary Bliss. And this song is You I Live For, and it's quite prophetic. The words are I live above the systems of the world. I totally rely on your word. No matter what may come my way, no matter what I face, it's you I live for. And it repeats again, I live above the systems of the world. And that's the place from which we are standing right here. So Lord, we just give you this space. We just yield the floor to you. Let the words of my heart, the words of my mouth, and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, Lord. And just yield the floor to you. And I pray for this podcast, pray for those listening. And I pray that you'll just attract those who need to hear this word in the time that they need to hear. So it will be a word in due season. For those who are still on the fence, undecided, this is for you. And for those who have been wondering, did you do the right thing? This is going to give you further confirmation. For those who are still worrying, should I even bother to vote? Because it seems as if I'm voting between meh and meh. Like, does it really matter? This is for you. For those who think, well, I'm definitely going to go vote independent because there is no choice between me and me, I refuse. This is for you. And primarily, this is for those who are of Christian faith because I'm speaking from a very spiritual perspective. And let me tell you something. The reason why this election is the most important yet is exactly that. It is the most important yet for spiritual reasons. And the first thing I want to caution you about is the fact that nothing is as it seems in this election. Nothing, nada. Nothing is as it seems. And guess what else? Neither of the two top candidates, the two premier candidates for both the Democratic as well as the Republican Party, neither of those two parties is as they appear. Is as he or she appears. Neither one is as. And so to vote from the judgment of emotions, to vote from the judgment of feelings, to vote even from the judgment of analysis, to vote from the judgment of preferences, to vote from the judgment of biases, to vote from the judgment of race and racial experiences, to vote from the judgment of racial realities, to vote from the judgment of socioeconomic realities is to vote wrong. That makes no sense, right? But he who has an ear to hear, let him or she hear what the Spirit of the Lord, let her hear what the Spirit of the Lord has to say to the churches. In a world of so many voices, this is what the song actually says: Lord, I will trust in your word, I will believe in your name. In a world where everyone's talking, Lord, I delight in your precious word. I believe in your name. I've had this song on repeat all morning, and it's now 1 o'clock. And it's on repeat because it is such a prophetic song in this moment, because there's so many people have been singing, so many people have been telling you to vote this way, to vote that way. So many prophetic voices have actually spoken. And I want to tell you that not every voice that has spoken from God. Sometimes, because we're human and because we're subject to fallacy, we speak from error, we speak from our emotions, we speak from our thoughts, we speak from our own hearts. And in so doing, we make a mess of things. So, in a world where there's so many voices, I will trust in your word. In a world where everyone is talking, I will believe in you. And so this is why it's so important to not only form your own opinion, not to form your own opinions of the politics of the moment, of even the mandates, the manifestos that are being articulated, the positions that are being made on certain topics that are hot button topics. They put the topics that provoke the far leftists and the far rights. All of those things, you just gotta literally put it all on the cross. You got to put it all on the cross. You got to put it all on the cross and say, about what is it that you want me to see? This is a time where you need to vote based on divine wisdom that comes from the throne room, from God, because your vote matters. This is not the election to sit out a vote. And I want to caution Americans who feel despondent, who feel like, listen to me, this guy is crazy, this lady is Lulu, and like, we're not doing either. I don't see the point in putting myself out to join lines or to inconvenience myself to vote because, boo, this is a choice between me and me, as I said earlier. Please don't do that, because your vote matters. And your vote matters for a whole bunch of different reasons. Just bringing it back to like just basic things like adult suffrage and all that was hard won and hard fought. The liberties of being able to serve one man per vote, one woman per vote. So many people died fighting for that. And so in Australia, it is actually legal to not to vote, for adults not to vote, because this is a civil liberty that is taken with great responsibility. It's very critical to vote, because voting is your way of tabling and ensuring that the government you have is a government you've chosen, and the government that you don't want is a government that you don't choose. And to not vote is to give up that right, is to give up that power. And let me tell you that the enemy wants to dispossess you from that power by completely making you feel like it's just not worth it. You're forfeiting your vote. You're forfeiting your power. Giving him, what happens when you forfeit a match? What happens when you forfeit a tournament? When the opponent does not show up to play, which is what forfeiting is, And in this case, forfeiting your vote would mean not showing up to vote, not voting. When you forfeit, when a sports team forfeits a game, the game is not cancelled. The game is not cancelled. The game is declared played and won by the team that showed up. Let that sink in for a minute. For those of you who actually don't follow sports, if you don't show up to vote, your vote is not cancelled. It doesn't go to zero. It actually goes to your opponent. So to not vote is to vote for whoever you don't want to vote. You the worst person you don't want to vote for. The second thing is, I don't want you to be distracted by independence. Independents are all very nice, but the reality is, as American politics is, it really is a two-party system. It really is a two-party system. You can argue on independent things for state level and all sorts of different things, but when it comes down to the presidency, it's a different matter. So, boo, don't waste your votes on independence. Vote for what God places on your heart. Literally pray, Abba, you know my ideas, you know my will, you know who I want to vote for, you know who I don't want to vote for. Show me, give me wisdom what to do in this hour. You have given me this voice to use as a mantle. We are priests, kings, and prophets in our homes, right? And we need to be able to leverage our voice on the House of Assemblies, on the House, the Senate, on the House of Representatives, right? In American politics, it's a little bit different. It's called differently. I'm so caught up with British style politics and the Westminster model, but it's the same, just different words, right? Congress, and then you also have the regular House, right? Boom. You have the Congress, you have Senate. I think that's how it's called in America. But understand as well that when you another point I want to make out, to make very clear, is when we're going to talk about the female vote, I don't want women to vote simply on gender either. Don't vote on gender. To vote on gender is to be manipulated. To vote on gender is to be manipulated. It's bigger than what it appears to be. And I'm surprised about what I have been seeing and studying. And the funny thing is, I haven't been following American politics hard and fast as I usually do in this political season, in this election season. Instead, I've been following world stuff. I'm a trained journalist, broadcast journalist, and so I'm really keen on understanding, and I really understand politics and follow politics, generally speaking, especially the coverage of politics and elections. Very fascinating to me. But this time I wasn't really interested in that. What I kept on being led to, what I was always being led to, was what was happening across the world, all the things that are happening in Southeast Asia. Yeah, with China rearing its head, right? Being aggressive towards Taiwan, being aggressive towards the Philippines, China being aggressive towards India about a border that is, well, neither here nor there. China trying to show power and might, pushing fights everywhere. Russia pushing fights with Ukraine. And then Iran feeding the proxies against Israel. The fight against the war in Israel is not a war just between Israel and Hamas, or is Israel and Hezbollah. It really is a war articulated, a war initiated, a war funded, a war instigated, a war fueled by Iran. And I keep on coming west, right? I'm coming closer and closer west. But before we come back completely west, understand that in the past 4 years, within the past 4 years, in the previous election cycle to this, we've seen the formation of BRICS. This association of countries that are thinking of finding an alternative to the US, of being anchored on US first currency. But what else? What else? China is trying to find more people to be pro China. So China has been investing incredibly in places like Africa, in places like the Caribbean, building infrastructure, buying friends, just like how the US would invest with UNDP and all of these other things, the Peace Corps, all of these other things in the world. And those things would create some level of supremacy in terms of economic supremacy, bringing influence and deference and respect and honor and all of those things to the US. So China has been trying to do that, right? And then Russia as well, not really keen, because, Putin has his own thing going on, and Putin wants a one-man agenda. But let me tell you that Putin, as much as India is also part of BRICS, South Africa as well, and India and China are vying for dominance in terms of manpower because of their numbers, just by the sheer numbers of their economy. And what do all of these things have to do with the US? Absolutely everything. And this is what I don't think American people understand, that your vote is not just a vote for you, it is primarily a vote for you. But it is also a vote for other countries as well, because of the dominance of America in world politics and world power. And to not vote correctly is to threaten that dominance. Yes. And trust me, you don't want that. I kid you not, this is bigger than the debate between women's wombs and fracking. It's way bigger than that. And also, coming back again to BRICS, coming back to Iran, the war in Iran, the problems with Iran, the problems with the Middle East, and jihadist Muslims. What do I mean by jihadist Muslims? Not all followers of Islam are very radical in their outlook, in their political outlook, and in their spiritual outlook. But the jihadists are those who have beliefs that it's Islam, it's Allah or nada, and whoever is not against Allah, whoever is not with Allah is against and needs to be eradicated. So it's a little bit more than that, but I've just simplified it, perhaps oversimplified. But we just want to keep the topic of discussion at hand. Now, when the Ayatollah came in 79 in Iran, that vote was not just to quash down the Sunni leadership of Iran. It was a rise into creating a Muslim state, an Islamic state, which they did. But not only, they were not satisfied at creating and turning Iran into an Islamic state. The Shah previously wanted to reform, wanted to modernize, wanted to really hone in on Iranian culture and Iranian history, the dominance of Persian culture in history. Persians were an incredible empire. have significant um, strength and dominance in world history, right? But there is a, it's not even latent, but there is a very, very strong and driving force of the radical Islamists to want Islam to be the pervasive and the only dominant religion of the world. And when the Ayatollah came in, when this Islamic State came in Iran, there were two things that they were predominantly for. One, and this is their words, not me regurgitating, not me paraphrasing. This is what they say: death to Israel and death to America. Death to Israel and death to America. So the enemies of Israel, understand this, Americans, are the enemies of America. I don't think Americans understand this. So when Americans are singing from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, understand that those who are really chanting, the jihadists chanting for the liberation, for the four, they're not looking for a two-state solution either. They're looking for everything from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea to be freed for the Palestinian people, for the eradication of Israel. So they want not only to eradicate Israel, they also want to eradicate the Americans. And there is no distancing from Israel. America and Israel are too tied up right now for any distancing to happen. And those who hate Israel hate America. And it's not just a mild disdain, it's death. The chant is death to Israel, death to America. So your vote is very critical. And who you align with is very critical. Iran and Russia are in cahoots, right? Iran and Russia are in cahoots. Hezbollah has manipulated Lebanon, has brought so much distress to Lebanon. Lebanon, it was the Paris of the Middle East. Very cultured, very, 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 very beautiful, very fantastic people. I know so many wonderful Lebanese people. I lived in the Middle East. I'm very, very passionate about the Middle East as well. And Lebanon has been reduced to rubble because of the meddling of Iran. At this point, the war is waging because Iran has been a paper tiger all this time, just pushing and strings on paper, but not really doing stuff directly because they've been playing through proxies. And so we know that they are behind the Houthis in Yemen. We know that they're behind a lot of these militia forces, ISIS, the funding of a whole bunch of Hezbollah, Hamas, all of these things. Stuff in Syria as well. Yeah. Al Qaeda in Syria, also Al Qaeda in Iraq because of their oil money. But they have not been direct. They have been covert narcissists. So they start the fires or they instigate the fires, but they are never held accountable because they are not the ones that actually light the match. They have their proxies, their flying monkeys do all the dirty work. But it's time for them to take and to bear accountability. And so this is bigger than this election. War is waging. World war is waging. And it's bigger than we think. I'll talk about the Palestinians some other time. We'll talk about the two-state thing some other time. But this is so big that this is the election where people are actually moving in the Western, in the British Westminster models, we say moving to the other side of the house, crossing the house. They're moving to the opposite side. They're people who were once Republican are now voting Democrat and vice versa. The Israeli vote was always heavily Democratic. No, they're saying that the one who is with Israel is not the Democratic Party anymore for whatever reason, whatever the agenda is of those in the leadership of the Democratic Party. Israel is not on top. And let me tell you something. This war with Israel and that the Israel's fighting is not a war that's only theirs. It is a war that is really linked to America as well. Israel has to win. Israel has to be able to subdue all of these radical forces in the Middle East. America cannot believe that what's happening over there is happening over there. Remember 9/11? 9/11 happened on American soil with these jihadists coming in, making attacks on American soil. It is all related. When Al Qaeda, when Iraq, when America was fighting Iraq, nobody told America to stop and ceasefire and all those things. Why is Israel being forced to do that? Let me tell you, you cannot stand out on this election. You may not feel as if the people who you have to vote for are the best parties that you've ever gotten, but you've got to vote because it is the most important vote that you have ever made in your life. And to sit out this one, history will not forgive you for sitting out this. Whatever you need to do, go and exercise your constitutional right, your right to vote. Your right to vote. This is bigger than guns, bigger than fracking, bigger than women's wombs. This is about ultimately bringing peace in this world because there are some tyrants that are rising, and these tyrants you can't talk nicely to. You ever talk nicely to a narcissist? You ever talk nicely to a psychopath or a sociopath? You'll be mangled. You manipulate it so easily that you don't even understand that you have participated in your own mangling. You cannot. You cannot. And so these are the things that are at stake. Christians, be careful how you vote. I want Americans who may not know or who may have forgotten that the Republican Party initially was a party of people of color. Because people of color have left the Republican Party, you have left it up to radicals to take over, like far, far, far right radicals to take it over. But that is your foundation. That's where you found real freedom. Don't run from that. Wherever you are absent from is where you yield power to your opponent. Be present. Come back. Take back the territory that the enemy has stolen from you. A lot of the theologies, a lot of the politics being exposed have no basis on what is biblical and what is needed in this time. You can't make these decisions based on your own thoughts and your own feelings and your own sentiments. This is the most important American election. And you are responsible for the outcome. The world is watching. The world is hoping. The world is praying. We are praying. All the intercessors across the world, we are praying. We've been feeling this heavy, heavy, heavy intercessory burden for America and for the American elections. And we are praying. We are praying that you are mobilized in your forces to get out and vote. The old, the young, and the in the middle. Please, please get out and vote. I'm not even American. I have no vote. No vote. My womb will not be affected by this message, but there's way more at stake. And I'm coming on here to talk about this because it's important, because it's been on my spirit and I just had to be obedient. Share this with as many people as you need to share it with. This is an independent party who has no dog in this fight, who is just being led by the Spirit of God to get you off your fence. Whoever is on a fence needs to get off a fence and go within a boundary and stand within the boundary. Get, hello, hello, sons and daughters, arise and take back that which the enemy has stolen. Don't be manipulated into your vote, and don't vote based on what you see with your natural eye. You've got to see it with spiritual eyes, because if you see it with natural eyes, you are going to be manipulated and you are going to be deceived. This is where discernment is paramount in this election. Spiritual discernment. Lots of people, lots of evangelicals, lots of people who call themselves Christians are not led by the Spirit of God. Those who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God. I am not one for politics. I'm a journalist. And the kind of journalist that I am naturally is one that does not care for politics. I'm the kind of journalist who naturally, based on how I am and how I formed my values and my ethics, I literally just stand for the rights of the people and stand fairly in the middle, questioning both sides, challenging both sides. But as one who has a call for governments and for nations, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, like it's bubbling up inside of me how important this election is for America. Get out and vote well. Vote well. You want to be able to have a leader who will be able to stand up to all of the paper tigers that are now raising their heads. They are hunger for power. They're hungry for dominance. They don't want America to be dominant anymore. They want to come there. You see, Russia is thinking of Russian Soviet dominance. Oh, the former glory. They want that. They're power hungry. They're blood hungry for that. Iran is thinking about that. Plus, they're fueled as well by a jihadist agenda that is also even scarier, because that means that they actually have fighters who are willing to die for the cause of death to Israel and death to America, because they are both intertwined. So, this is not the time when things are hot this way. This is not the time to put your head in the sand and pretend like this is just about the rights of women's wombs and fracking and board-ups and walls. It's way more than that. This is about the war. The war that's not only looming, but the war that's imminent. And who is on the Lord's side? Who is on the Lord's side? There's a lot of things that appear to be one thing that are not, because this is a time where many are calling good evil and evil there is wanton perversion. And I'm hoping that I actually had not disconnected my mic the whole time because I saw that it was disconnected a while ago, but I've been known to do weird things like talk for an entire live stream and not have any sound. And I hope that this didn't happen this time. But this is an important election. This is a critical election. And so before I go, I'm just gonna end this live stream. Before I go, I want to pray. So Abba, I just thank you for this time. I thank you for this season. I thank you that you have opened up our eyes to understand that what is ahead of us is not what it seems. So I pray that you will give greater vision and greater insight and discernment to those who are voting, particularly those who are voting, who are your children, to vote as you have, with wisdom that you have given for such a time as this. Because this is not the election to sit out. This is the election to vote, and to vote well, and to vote righteously. And that righteous vote might actually be against our natural, earthly, human inclinations. It might be against our own logic, but we yield, Abba, to your will in this time, in this season, because your will, what's perfect for us, what's best for us, will never be outside of your will. So we yield to your perfect will, yet your will be done, because you said that they who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God. So we yield to being led by you, even in this place of voting in an election that may seem mundane, that may not seem exciting, that may have two candidates that seem like lackluster and not important. But yet, this is the most important election to ever vote in. Because that was the plan of the enemy, to make many not vote, to forfeit, and therefore give the upper hand to the opponent. So, we ask for your mercy, we ask for your forgiveness. For leaning on our own wisdom and our own understanding. But you said, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. I prayed and I asked God, and I said, Abba, I don't want to go on without a scripture. And there it is. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways, even in the way of voting, in the way of who to vote for in this American election, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. My love, my blessings, and my prayer for America, and my prayer for the world, for these times, may God's perfect will be done. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, may his blood cover us, and may his love run through our veins. In the name of Yeshua, amen.